The story kicks off with an unexpected burst from the sun, an explosion so intense it sends shockwaves of searing heat across the entire universe, a massive solar storm. If this storm reaches Earth, it could trigger a global catastrophe, one that could devastate the planet. Cut to the coast of Turkey. Arman, a seasoned diver, is photographing vibrant coral reefs and delicate marine life beneath the surface. His work done, he swims back to shore, but the day takes a surprising turn when he runs into his ex-girlfriend, Daphne. But this isn't a chance encounter to revive old sparks. Daphne has a mission, and she needs Arman's expertise. She invites him to join her team on a daring expedition to find the Erebus Trench, a mysterious and uncharted location that holds secrets no one has ever uncovered. Arman's curiosity quickly turns to frustration when Daphne drops a revelation. The mission is backed by a company called Yenilik. The moment he hears the name, his face tightens. Yenilik is owned by his father, a man with whom Arman has a complicated, strained relationship. Daphne notices his change in demeanor, but presses on. She urges him to join the team, insisting this is the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to uncover the mystery of the Erebus Trench, a dream they both shared. If he walks away now, it might be their only shot. Hours later, the solar storm reaches Mercury, its destructive force unstoppable. At a military base, Lieutenant Silik spots the storm's trajectory and reacts immediately. She reports the news to her superior. The urgency clears in her voice. The storm is on track to hit Earth. The next day, Arman receives a strange document from Yenilik. As he reads through it, something clicks. His excitement builds. He can't wait to meet Daphne. But instead of her, he's greeted by Kenan, her fiancé. The revelation hits him like a punch. He hadn't known Daphne was about to marry someone else, and the mix of emotions floods over him. Trying to refocus, Arman presses Daphne for more details about the mission. She confesses that her father's company isn't just after Erebus Trench for exploration. They want to exploit the area for oil and natural gas buried deep within. But there's hope. If they find black coral or the elusive golden coral, species Arman's been hunting for years, they could stop Yenilik from drilling. These species are protected by law. Without hesitation, Arman agrees to join the team. Before they set off, Arman meets the rest of the crew. Rana, Daphne's assistant, Sam, a marine biologist and Arman's old friend, and Felix, an oceanographer. But when Arman learns Kenan will be part of the mission, something unexpected stirs inside him: jealousy. Meanwhile, at the military base, Silik overhears a tense conversation among the higher-ups. The solar storm could obliterate human civilization. She knows time is running out. Back home, Silik immediately contacts her family, urging them to gather supplies and head to the basement for shelter. The storm is coming fast. But then, she realizes something chilling. Her phone has been tapped by the military. As soldiers arrive to arrest her, Silik thinks quickly. She leaves her phone behind, slips away, and escapes in one of their vehicles. Meanwhile, Arman and his team are testing the submarine's durability under deep ocean pressure. But suddenly, they lose contact with the Kenan and the captain, who are aboard the ship. The team suspects a communication failure. After over 12 hours underwater, Arman decides it's time to surface and fix the equipment. But when he emerges and boards the ship, his heart drops. The ship is completely deserted, no sign of anyone. It's as if everyone vanished without a trace. Eventually, Arman discovers a recording from Kenan, revealing the catastrophic news. The solar storm has already claimed millions of lives. Panic spreads as Kenan and the crew rush back to the mainland, scrambling for shelter from the deadly sunlight. Determined to find Kenan, Arman and his team head back to the dock. But as they approach the shore, something unusual appears on the radar. It's a massive submarine, the Yakamoz S-245, belonging to the Turkish Navy. When they reach land, Captain Arane greets Arman with urgency. The military base isn't responding, and no one knows what's happening in the city. In response, Arman shows him Kenan's recording, revealing the full scope of the disaster, the solar storm, the million dead, and the chaos taking over the world. Captain Arane wasted no time. With the disaster now known as Sarin, he ordered his crew to search for the bunker Kenan had mentioned. The clock was ticking, only a few hours left before they had to return to the submarine before sunrise. Arman, meanwhile, sent Felix and Sam to the nearest power station to check the submarine's power supply. They needed to ensure it could handle the pressure of the deep ocean during daylight. Later, Arman, Daphne, and Vice Captain Umut geared up to head into the city for supplies. As they arrived, they were met with chaos. The city was a ghost town, littered with the bodies of the dead. The air was thick with despair. Inside a church, they found even more bodies, a chilling sign that no one was safe, even in closed buildings, against the solar storm's deadly radiation. After hours of searching the city, Arman and the team found no survivors. Just as they were about to give up, a Marine radioed in. One person had been found alive, hiding in a safe deposit box at a bank. The person was barely hanging on, barely able to speak. With a few broken words, they confirmed the grim truth. Survival from the solar storm's radiation was impossible. With a heavy heart, Umut couldn't watch the suffering any longer. He made the painful decision to end it, shooting the individual to spare them further pain. Realizing they had no time left, Umut ordered the Marines back to the submarine. But Daphne wasn't ready to give up on finding Kenan. At that moment, Umut gave them both a stern warning. They had just 30 minutes. If they weren't back by then, the Yakamoz would leave without them, heading back into the ocean before sunrise. When Umut and the Marines returned to the dock, chaos erupted. A few rebellious Marines, fueled by greed, attempted to steal money from the bank, sparking a violent confrontation. Some Marines were sickened by the act, and a brief but intense fight broke out. Meanwhile, Felix and Sam successfully restored power to the city's electrical station. But their actions triggered the bank's security system, trapping several Marines inside a safe. The only one left was Altan, who had no choice but to abandon his comrades and escape. Back at the dock, Sam and Felix returned to find Rana frantically trying to contact Arman and Daphne, urging them to come back. But Arman and Daphne were already on their way to an old bunker far from the dock. Inside the bunker, they made a grim discovery: countless dead bodies. Among them was Kenan. His lifeless form confirmed what they feared. The bunker hadn't been strong enough to protect anyone from the solar storm's deadly radiation. In a heart-wrenching moment, Daphne had to let go of her beloved. With the weight of the loss bearing down on them, she and Arman raced back to the dock, knowing time was running out before sunrise. Meanwhile, Umut quickly ordered the Marines to prepare for departure. The sun was almost up, and they had to return to the ocean before daylight hit. Moments later, Altan arrived at the dock, breathless. He told Umut that his brother, Engin, and several other soldiers were trapped in the bank safe. Umut's rage was instant. Engin was the mechanical expert they desperately needed for any submarine repairs. Soon, the crew boarded the submarine, and Captain Arane, though reluctant, gave the order to dive. Arman and Daphne still hadn't returned, but there was no time left. The sun was moments away from rising. Just as the submarine began its descent, Arman and Daphne rushed to the dock. At that moment, Rana and the others begged Captain Arane to open the submarine doors. With a reluctant nod, the captain allowed them inside. But Umut didn't hold back. He turned to Arman, blaming him and Daphne for the deaths of Engin and the others. Aboard the submarine, Yanka led Arman and the others on a quick tour, warning them about restricted areas. But as they moved through the ship, something unsettling happened. One of the Marines started acting erratically, hallucinating, and speaking to his deceased mother. Suddenly, an alarm blared. The submarine shook violently, the sound of a hydraulic malfunction echoing through the corridors. Panic set in. Without a mechanical expert, they were in serious trouble. But Arman acted fast, diagnosing the problem and fixing it. Captain Arane's expression hardened as he ordered the crew to restrain the troubled Marine, Barry. His gaze then shifted to Arman, his suspicion clear. Arman's quick fix of the submarine's malfunction had caught everyone off guard. The captain's silence spoke volumes, questioning how did Arman know how to solve the problem. Arman paused, then revealed the truth. He owned a submarine, used for marine ecosystem research with his team. Captain Arane's expression shifted. Realizing Arman was no ordinary man, he wasted no time, officially appointing him as the new mechanical expert. For some reason, Umut, Altan, and a few other Marines weren't thrilled about Arman taking charge. Tension ran high as Altan even targeted Arman's friends, trying to vent his frustrations. Daphne, unable to stand the disrespect, reported the incident to both Arman and Captain Arane. But the captain dismissed her concerns, convinced that his crew had always been disciplined. He suggested that Arman and Daphne try to smooth things over with the Marines. Not long after, while Altan and the others were lounging in their quarters, a Marine noticed something missing. Canned food they had hidden was gone. Altan immediately pointed the finger at Daphne, accusing her of theft. The situation almost escalated, but Yanka stepped in just in time, halting Altan's outburst. Altan, seething with anger, stormed to Captain Arane with the other Marines, accusing Arman and his team of stealing the canned food. He demanded they be thrown off the submarine. Arman tried to reason with them, insisting that neither he nor his team had taken the food. In such a deadly crisis, they had to stand together if they wanted to survive. With Arane's Marines and the scientists' knowledge, Arman was sure they had a chance, not just to survive, but to save humanity. Just then, Felix burst in, his face pale with fear. He'd seen Barry heading into the torpedo room, carrying a grenade. Panic swept through the crew. The torpedoes could explode at any moment, destroying the submarine. Captain Arane remained calm as he tried to talk Barry down, hoping reason would prevail. But Barry was beyond reach. In his twisted mind, the disaster was a divine apocalypse, a cleansing of humanity. He intended to take everyone down with him. Realizing the danger, Arane acted fast. As Barry prepared to detonate the grenade, the captain slammed the torpedo room door shut, shielding the crew from the blast. The explosion rocked the submarine, the alarm blaring as severe damage flashed across the control panel. Miraculously, the torpedoes didn't fire, but the pressure of the deep sea had caused a small hole in the hull. In response, Arman and the Marines scrambled to seal it, knowing that if left unchecked, the hole would widen and doom them all. It took time, but they patched it up. Still, Arman warned them, the patch wouldn't hold for long. The only way to survive was to seal it from the outside before the pressure crushed them. The task ahead was daunting. Umut pointed out the problem. Almost no one on board had the experience to repair the submarine, except for Arman and Yonka, who was still reeling from the loss of her father, Captain Arane. As Arman and Yonka prepared to leave the submarine, Umut, now acting captain, gave them a sharp warning. They were still deep underwater, and caution was crucial. It seemed the tension had lifted. Umut no longer held a grudge against Arman, and if anything, his concern for their safety was clear. Once outside the submarine, Arman and Yonka swam to the damaged area, quickly setting to work with underwater welding equipment. They were focused, sealing the hole in the vessel's wall with precision. For a moment, everything went smoothly. Then, out of nowhere, a fish startled Yonka. In the chaos, she dropped her father's necklace, a sentimental piece she had kept close. Desperate, she reached for it, but the dark, endless depths swallowed everything. The submarine was nowhere to be found. Fortunately, Arman quickly found Yonka, and with their oxygen running low, they made a swift dash back to the submarine. Once aboard, Arman insisted she keep the incident to herself, as he didn't want to be seen as a hero. But more urgently, he warned Umut that the repairs were only temporary. The patch could come off at any moment, and they couldn't afford to push the submarine to full speed. Umut listened carefully, then made the call to head to a nearby naval base for a proper repair before sunset. He ordered the crew to maintain a steady, normal speed, knowing they couldn't take any more risks. As the submarine glided through the water, Umut and Yonka shared quiet memories of Captain Arane. They recalled how the captain would scold Umut for being too picky with food. Despite his tough exterior, Arane had been a deeply caring commander, one Umut had come to see as a father figure. Shortly after, Felix pulled Arman aside, his voice filled with concern. Sam had developed a fever, and with the submarine's medical supplies running low, Arman knew they had to act fast. He suggested they head for a pharmacy as soon as they reached land to gather more medicine. Once they arrived at the naval base, Umut quickly took charge, directing Altan and the other Marines to split up and gather intel about what had happened to the people there. As they searched the base, the truth hit them. Everyone was dead. In silence, the Marines buried the bodies, holding a memorial for Captain Arane to honor his memory. But as they stood over the grave, Umut's mind began to unravel. He hallucinated, seeing the figure of a child lying among the dead. Days passed and the crew worked relentlessly, repairing the submarine by sunset and returning to the ocean before sunrise. But with their numbers dwindling, progress was painfully slow. Their food supply was running out fast. After nightfall, Yanka and Altan rushed to the base's warehouse to scavenge whatever food they could find. Meanwhile, Arman and Daphne headed to the nearest health center, hoping to find medicine and vitamins to keep them going. Later, while Felix cooked in the submarine, strange noises echoed through the hall. Curious, he went to investigate, and suddenly a mysterious woman appeared, trying to flee the sub. Felix didn't hesitate. He alerted the crew and the chase began. The woman was no ordinary person. She effortlessly overpowered several Marines in seconds. After a brief but intense pursuit, the Marines finally captured her. To their surprise, the woman was Kalik, the same soldier who had tried to escape from the military. Moments later, Yanka wasted no time and began questioning Shalik, asking how Kalik had she ended up on the submarine. As Felix and Rana uncovered Salik's military uniform, the truth came out. Salik revealed she was a soldier assigned to monitor satellites for the military base. After overhearing her superiors discussing the solar storm that would wipe out humanity, she had been pursued for leaking the information, determined to protect her family. When she learned the Yakamoz was leaving, she snuck aboard, hiding in plain sight. During her time aboard the submarine, Salik uncovered a series of shocking secrets. She learned about Yanka's near-drowning incident when she dropped her father's necklace into the deep. But the biggest revelation came when Salik claimed that Captain Arane had been a spy. According to Salik, after the solar storm, Captain Arane had secretly communicated with someone who had also survived the disaster without informing his crew. Knowing this, Yanka and Umut wasted no time. They stormed into Captain Arane's quarters and searched his belongings. It didn't take long to find a notebook, its pages filled with coordinates to a specific location and a list of the submarine's scientists. But one detail stood out. Only Daphne's name was highlighted at all. Meanwhile, at the military base, Daphne snuck into the computer room. With determination, she tried to hack into a terminal using her own device, but the system refused to cooperate, unable to connect to the server network. Her frustration grew. Time was running out. Back on the submarine, a few Marines started showing signs of illness. The crew quickly suspected a viral outbreak. But Sam, the marine biologist, soon set them straight. It wasn't a virus. The real culprit was the food they had taken from the base. The radiation from the solar storm had spoiled it, turning it toxic and causing serious stomach problems. Sam suggested they focus on canned food. It might be the only thing that could survive the radiation without going bad. Without wasting a moment, Umut ordered everyone to scour the submarine and gather as many cans as possible before the food became completely unusable. As the crew searched, Umut made a decisive call. He would release Shelik and take her to the military base to dig deeper into who Daphne really was. But their plans were interrupted when they intercepted a strange radio signal. The message was scrambled, too unclear to make sense of, so they moved forward with their investigation. What they uncovered was shocking. Daphne wasn't just any scientist. She was working with NATO's military organization, and it seemed they'd known about the solar storm for a lot longer than anyone had realized. Meanwhile, Felix stumbled upon a warehouse packed with canned food. The discovery was a relief for the crew. They wouldn't have to worry about food for a while. But when they cracked open a few cans and tasted the contents, their relief quickly turned to shock. The food was spoiled. Meanwhile, Umut was about to share the truth about Daphne's identity with Yanka when they were interrupted by the sudden roar of a plane flying overhead. They froze, staring up in disbelief, questioning how could a plane be flying after the solar storm. The world had been ravaged, and the airspace was supposed to be empty. Without missing a beat, Umut and Selik headed straight to the computer room, hoping to track down information on the mysterious aircraft. But when they tried to connect, they didn't reach the plane. Instead, they were linked to a group of people who had been trying to contact them before. The people on the other end were from Russia, communicating through a space station, an unexpected twist that only deepened the mystery. As Salik focused on tracing the aircraft's location, she noticed Umut quietly scribbling something on a piece of paper before slipping it into his pocket without a word. The secrecy of his actions raised Salik's suspicions. Moments later, Arman and the others approached them, eager to learn more about the plane they had spotted. The plane appeared to be flying around the Earth, trying to avoid the sun's deadly rays. Arman immediately turned to Salik, urging her to contact the aircraft. If they could make contact, They might find allies, especially since their food supply was running dangerously low. But Umut was quick to object. He feared the people on the plane might be hostile, potentially trying to take what little food they had left. After a brief, tense pause, they decided to head back to the submarine. The sun was about to rise, and they couldn't afford to be exposed for much longer. Shortly after, Daphne tried to convince Sam to return to the submarine, but he wasn't having it. He was done. He said he was staying on land, waiting for the sunrise. Daphne begged him to come back, but Sam didn't want to suffer anymore. He told her to say goodbye to Arman and the others, and with no other choice, she respected his decision. As the sun rose, Sam stood there, basking in its warmth. A smile spread across his face, unaware that the radiation from the solar storm was slowly tearing him apart. Daphne and the others could only watch in silence, knowing Sam wouldn't survive the storm. Meanwhile, Umut tried to comfort Rana, inviting her into his quarters. He offered her a drink and in the quiet of the moment, shared that every time he looked at her, he saw his younger sister, who he feared had been lost to the solar storm. The next day, Umut and the crew resumed tracking the aircraft they had spotted earlier. When they finally pinpointed its location, they were shocked. The plane had changed course, now hovering over Bulgaria, just a stone's throw from Turkey. It seemed the people aboard had found shelter, and Salik recalled a NATO bunker buried deep underground in that area, a place that might have shielded them from the solar storm's deadly radiation. Suddenly, a call came through. A voice claimed to have found a shelter in a mine in Spain, stocked with enough supplies to accommodate many people. The information was a game changer. Daphne suggested they head to Spain, knowing the miners had resources to sustain the group. But Umut wasn't so sure. He argued that the NATO bunker in Bulgaria was a more reliable refuge, with better security and infrastructure. As they journeyed on, Umut reviewed Captain Arane's notes, his eyes catching a hidden code. He quickly cracked it, revealing critical information about people heading to Norway. Without alerting the crew, he quietly ordered Altan to change course and head toward Norway while everyone rested. Not long after, a sudden explosion suddenly rocked the submarine, followed by the blaring of alarms. Panic spread among the crew. Everyone feared the worst, that the submarine was about to explode. However, Umut calmly reassured them, claiming everything was under control. He deliberately triggered the alarms to wake them up. Umut then announced they no longer needed to go to Bulgaria, fabricating a lie that everyone there had already perished. Instead, he revealed his true plan, heading to Norway to access the Doomsday Warehouse, a secure facility stocked with seeds from plants around the world. The plan was simple: take the seeds, grow their own crops aboard the submarine, and secure a sustainable food source. The crew seemed on board with Umut's plan, but Daphne wasn't convinced. She argued the journey to Norway was too far and growing crops wouldn't be quick enough to solve their immediate food crisis. She pushed for the Spanish mines where supplies were more immediate. The group argued, weighing their options. In the end, Umut reluctantly agreed to head for the mines, but he made one thing clear. If things went wrong, the blame would fall squarely on Daphne's shoulders, since it was her idea. Meanwhile, Salik grew increasingly suspicious of Daphne. She had noticed that Daphne frequently accessed her laptop in the restroom, always in secret. Then one day, Salik overheard a conversation between Umut and Altan, discussing a secret known only to the two of them. When they arrived in Spain, the group quickly found a vehicle and drove to the mine, just a few kilometers from the dock. At the mine, they discovered a problem. The lift could only carry 5 people at a time. With no other choice, Umut made the call to take Arman, Daphne, and 2 armed Marines down first, leaving Yanka and the rest of the crew behind. But as soon as they reached the mine, the lift malfunctioned and became unusable. Yanka immediately ordered the others to find another way in. What they didn't know was that someone inside the mine had deliberately sabotaged the lift. Meanwhile, Salik snuck into Daphne's room, her suspicions burning. But before she could dig deeper, Altan caught her, cornering her in the room. He attacked, forcing Salik to fight back. In the chaos, she managed to crack open Daphne's laptop, revealing a series of hidden messages exchanged between Daphne and a mysterious man. The messages discussed the solar storm disaster, some of them sent even before it occurred. Meanwhile, inside the mine, Umut and the others were suddenly ambushed by the miners. The miners revealed the truth. They had sent out a false distress signal, hoping someone would come to rescue them since they had run out of supplies. Acting quickly, Arman stepped forward, trying to de-escalate the situation. He promised to help if they cooperated. But before he could say more, Umut fired a shot, instantly sparking a violent confrontation between the two groups. The sound of gunfire echoed through the mine. Yanka, hearing the chaos above, acted fast. She ordered Felix and Rana to find a way to reactivate the lift, while she prepared to head down into the mine to help Umut and the others, now locked in a deadly firefight with the miners. Shortly after, Yanka pushed deeper into the tunnel, finally finding Daphne hiding in the shadows. Together they stumbled upon a gruesome sight, several bodies torn apart, seemingly eaten alive. The horrifying truth became clear. The miners had resorted to cannibalism to survive. As the group gathered in the lift, Arman quickly found the button to activate it. They managed to escape the mine just as the miners closed in on them, the lift doors slamming shut. Umut wasted no time, ordering the crew to head back to the dock. But as they reached the vehicle, a shocking realization hit. Daphne and Arman couldn't find the keys. Felix had forgotten to return them. Panic set in as the sound of the miners chasing them grew louder. With no other choice, Arman and Daphne bolted, racing for the dock while the miners closed in fast. As they reached the dock, Umut and the Marines opened fire, providing cover for Arman and Daphne. But in the chaos, Daphne tripped and was grabbed by the miners. Arman rushed forward trying to negotiate, but Umut fired again. And in the crossfire, one of the miners shot back, fatally wounding Daphne. Umut showed no remorse. He had always known the risks, and Daphne had promised to take responsibility if anything went wrong on their journey to Spain. Meanwhile, Yanka had no choice but to knock Arman out, rushing him back to the submarine before sunrise. When Arman regained consciousness, he told Felix and Rana about Daphne's death. The weight of it hit them hard. Without her invitation, they knew they'd likely have been lost to the solar storm disaster. Back in the command room, Umut checked the computer and found a message from NATO to Captain Arane. The message hinted at something far deeper, something that suggested their entire mission and their encounter with Arman and his team had been part of a plan all along. The message revealed shocking details. NATO had instructed Captain Arane to rescue Daphne, knowing her expertise was crucial to establishing new life in the sea. They had been working together to survive the solar storm. During the tense meeting, Arman stormed in, his rage boiling over. He lunged at Umut, blaming him for Daphne's death. In the chaos, Arman was quickly restrained and locked in a room. Felix and Rana watched in disbelief. Furious, they confronted Umut, threatening to refuse help with the hydroponic farming unless he released Arman. The threat only fueled Umut's anger. He shot back, threatening to withhold food from them if they didn't cooperate. Umut, undeterred, ordered Altan and the other Marines to start learning how to grow hydroponic crops. But as they dug into the manuals, frustration mounted. None of them had any experience with farming, and the instructions only made things worse. The Marines were stressed and confused, unable to grasp the basics of planting crops. Later, while locked in his room, Arman overheard a conversation among the Marines about two missing torpedoes. His suspicion grew. Something wasn't right with Umut. He immediately called Felix and instructed him to summon Yanka. When Yanka arrived, Arman wasted no time. He revealed everything he knew: Umut's secretive actions, his efforts to isolate Daphne, and the scientists and the missing torpedoes. Arman believed Umut had fired them at another submarine in Bulgarian waters, a move that seemed intentional, driven by Umut's obsession with power. Arman was convinced Umut didn't care about anyone aboard the submarine. His sole focus was becoming the leader, and if they let him stay in charge, he would sacrifice anyone, friend or foe, to ensure his own survival. Yanka at first couldn't believe it. She had known Umut for years, and even her father had trusted him. But Arman wasn't finished. He had a plan to prove Umut's true intentions. He instructed Yanka to call Umut, pretending they needed to discuss Felix and Rana. A while later, Umut arrived to speak with Arman. He unlocked Arman's handcuffs and surprisingly handed him a can of food. He then instructed Arman to convince Felix and Rana to help set up the equipment for the hydroponic plants. During the conversation, Arman saw an opportunity to provoke Umut. With a few carefully chosen words, he got Umut to open up about his past. He revealed that both of his parents had been victims of a genocide carried out by another country. Afterward, Captain Arane had taken him in and sent him to a military academy. Arman listened carefully, but instead of softening toward Umut, he became more convinced that Umut was unfit to lead. The emotional instability he had just revealed could easily put everyone on the submarine in jeopardy. Arman decided to test Umut's true character. He told Umut that he would ask Felix and Rana to help, but only if Umut agreed to release two of his men, Altan and another Marine, as compensation for the deaths of Daphne and Sam. At first, Umut refused, but when Arman mentioned the torpedo attack on another submarine, Umut's eyes narrowed. Reluctantly, he agreed to release Altan, Han, and the other Marine. Unbeknownst to them, the conversation was overheard by the other Marines. The truth hit hard. Umut had sacrificed his crew to save himself. Tension skyrocketed, and the situation teetered on the edge of a shootout. But Arman acted fast, stepping in to defuse the conflict. He reminded the crew that if they didn't pull together, none of them would survive. They had to set aside their differences. In the end, Umut was confined to a room. With Yanka now holding the highest rank, she was appointed the new captain, replacing him. She and Arman wasted no time, working together to decode the secret message Captain Arane had received. The message seemed to align with Arman's group's route, pointing to NATO's involvement. When they cracked the code, they found a secret phone number. Yanka immediately ordered the Marines to bring the submarine to the surface, so Arman could use his satellite phone to call the number. When the line connected, Arman was stunned. On the other end was his father, having survived the solar storm. At that moment, his father revealed the shocking truth. They had known about the solar storm long before it hit. And now, with Daphne gone, he instructed Arman to head to coordinates in the Indian Ocean. There, his father said, was a new world, a place he had created to preserve humanity's future. After the call, Arman shared everything his father had told him with the Yanka and the crew. But he made one thing clear: don't fully trust his father. Arman had always known that his father was no good, willing to do anything to fulfill his own desires. Despite that, Arman chose to follow Yanka's lead, now the captain of the submarine. Yanka agreed they would first retrieve the seeds from Norway, then head to the coordinates his father had provided. When they reached Norway, Arman planned to go to the Doomsday warehouse with Rana and one Marine, still uncertain if it would be safe for everyone. He warned Rana that if things went south, she should return to the submarine immediately, without hesitation. As Arman and Rana set off, disaster struck. Altan spotted a torpedo heading straight for the submarine, likely a retaliatory strike from the submarine Umut had attacked earlier. The crew scrambled, quickly maneuvering the submarine to avoid the incoming missile. Meanwhile, Arman and Rana arrived at the Doomsday warehouse, only to be shocked by a group of people loading supplies onto a plane. With no other choice, Arman ordered Rana to return to the submarine while he went to negotiate with the mysterious group. When Arman reached the warehouse, two soldiers confronted him. Without warning, one of them shot Arman, muttering something as he did. The bullet's impact brought everything rushing back. Arman remembered his father's words about the new world. And then, it was over. So the moral of the story is, if you're ever in a life-or-death mission, make sure the people around you aren't secretly plotting, or worse, stealing canned food, and don't trust anyone who suddenly decides to make themselves the captain, especially when torpedoes are involved.